Tractate Bava Kamma, we're going to study today, page 64. The subject of mechzei keribit appears like taking an interest. It's a heavy part of our discussion today. Here are some examples. One man lent some money to the fellow congregants. So that Shabbat, the Gabbai sold the aliyot, getting up the Torah as usual. So the borrower bought a maftir aliyah. There are certain synagogues that, as you know, you buy it in advance. So the fellow bought the maftir aliyah and he gave it to the lender. The fellow that several days ago lent him large sum of money. So it only took a second for the lender to realize that this show of appreciation was a clear case of interest mid-Rabbanan, by the rabbinic way. He thought to refuse the aliyah, but he recalled what we study, if you remember twice, that one who refuses to take an aliyah la Torah is shortens his life. You remember that Gemarrah? So, Rahman al-Islam. So he took it in a way with misgivings. So he was unsure what he would have done differently and asked for guidance. So he went to the Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein, the great rabbi of Ramat Aaron, which is a neighborhood next to Bnei Brak in Israel. And Rav Zilberstein said to him that he was forbidden to purchase the aliyah for you, like you really figured, but if you can, you should pay for the aliyah, or you should pay for the same aliyah for him the following week. So in a way, you will not have any form of ribit mid'Rabbanan or mechzei keribit appear as an interest. So part of our discussion today is, if you paying now many commercials, many advertisements you see that tells you, if you pay right now, it costs you much less. But if you're paying later, etc. So the question is that ribit, is that form of interest? Also, there is a different form of either avak ribit, mechzei keribit, appear as an interest. You buy, for example, a Sefer Torah. So you basically hire a scribe and you pay according to agreement, for example, per calm, per months, per certain job, like one of the chumashim, etc. But it takes the scribe certain period of time, sometimes long period of time, to complete the entire Torah. Now, the reality is, sometimes the scribe is under he is, like we know one case here, right? He was with a very large family in Israel, and he's pressed for fund. So he gave you a very, very low price, under market price, just to get you as a customer. The question is that okay or not? Another phase, you basically lend, let's say, $10,000, and the fellow pay you back, and you come home and you discover that he's $10,800. So the question is, if it's something that a person may make a mistake. For example, if it was $100 and you see, let's say, another $10 bill, and the whole 100 was the bills of tens. So it may be miscalculated the numbers, and it's actually, he meant to give you 100. But sometimes it's a gift in advance. Rabbeinu Asher said, it happens sometimes that a person owes you, either because he stole from you or because he have other reasons, so he is embarrassed to pay you, So he artified, he squeezed in what he owes you within the payment of something. Right? So the question is how you treat it. So we're going to start today on page 63b, ואמר רב נחמן. ואמר רב נחמן, הימן דאוזיב פשיטי מחברי ואשכח בי תופיינה, אי בכדי שהדעת נוטה מחייב להדורי לי, ואילב מתנה בעלמה הוא דיהב לי. So we are 6 lines from the bottom of page 63b. Here, the Shita Mekubeset said it's not related to our subject. The Rambam said it is part of the discussion, the relationship between lender and borrower. So Rav Nachman said that one who borrowed coins from another, so then he counted, and all of a sudden they realized that there are more, the additional money. So it's more than normal, no, the range that it's a normal way of people. So we have the obligation to return it, obviously. But if not, if it's such a huge difference between the amount of money and what he had, it must the lender give him as a gift. So in the Rambam, Ilchot Milveh Veloveh, chapter 4, he said, I'm reading the translation from Rabbi Evan Israel, Rabbi Steinsaltz's Koren edition, in a case where one collected money from another, whether as a loan, as payment for a sale, or as repayment of a debt, and he discovered that the other had given him more money than the amount to which he was entitled. So, determining factor in deciding the status of the money is whether the difference was within the range of normal mistake, normal error. For example, if the money is usually counted in groups of 5, and he found 5 extra coins, or 1 additional coin was found in a case where the coins were usually counted individually, so it's a standard error. That's the Ramah, citing Mishnah Lamelech. But, so you have such a discrepancy, so you have to return it to him. It's just simple mistake. But if mistake was beyond the ordinary range of a standard error, it can be assumed to be a gift, or for the return of property the giver had stolen from the recipient. So that's the Choshen Mishpat in 232. There are cases of people who are embarrassed to tell you that it was a money that was stolen. Hey chedami bichdei shadat to'a. Give me a situation, a circumstance that you said that that's the range of normal mistake. Amar Rav Acha brei de Rav Yosef, page 64, be'isuraita vechumshaita. He said that you have a 10 or 5s, so it can happen that the way they counted, Maram Shiv said, it's the group, and therefore it made a mistake. So again, the big question here is what exactly happened. If it was just a normal error, Tosfot said, or all the superfluous money, it's basically a gift, because in those days they do not have that manner to count one by one. Tosfot explained and Ritva, the Choshen Mishpat 232, there is a lot of discussion what exactly happened here. Is a gift, is a way to return all money, or it's an error. Obviously, when it's all said and done, if it is error, so the code tells us in Choshen Mishpat 355, הגוזל את חברו והבליע לו בחשבון, and soon you see example, if one steals an item from another and return it to its place without the owner's knowledge. So if the owner knew about the robber is responsible for the item until he informs the owner that it was returned. Consequently, if he stole money and added the sum to the payment he owed him, if he placed it into a pouch that the owner uses on a regular basis, it is as if he returned it with the owner's knowledge. But if he threw it into a pouch not currently being used, the thief remains responsible for the amount he stole. If the owner had no knowledge of the theft, the thief fulfills his obligation by incorporating it into his payment. אמר לרב אחא ברי דרבא לרב אשי, והיא איניש תקיפהו דלא יהיב מתנה מאי. He said to him, if you have a very difficult person, a harsh individual, that's the lender, and he's like you read last week about Sodom and Gomorrah, he's he's not a person that does kindness. So why you say that the borrower can hold the money by for himself? Amar lei dilma migzal gazlei ve'avlalei becheshbon. So he basically, as we said, he included in a payment because actually it was, that's what we brought there to in Choshen Mishpat in 232, that he bought it in honor, he just incorporated it, hivliya, he put it within the calculation of the money in order for him not to pay attention, to realize that that's basically a return of fund. The Tanya, we learn in the Braita, הגוזל את חברו והבליע לו בחשבון יצא. So one who basically stole or robbed another fellow, and he took that, he did teshuvah now. So he returned the stolen money. How? He basically squeezed in some payment for something for that. So as far as fulfill the obligation, the mitzvah, in Leviticus 5, והשיב את הגזלה אשר גזל, return the money that was stolen, he did it. Even the victim, the one who had been stolen, not aware of that. Right? So he can do it in many different ways. But as long as he return it, so it's so since we assume that that's what happened, so the borrower can hold that money for himself. But if the giver was a person from the outside, the lo shakil vetarei bahadei, that the recipient had never conducted business. So why? They never have a business transactions. He come from far away. It's very unlikely that he stole from him ever. It's also a harsh person that is not giving a gift. So why the borrower can hold the money for himself? So Rav Asher responds and he said, Dilma, Amar le Dilma inish acharina gazlei. Maybe he's a third person who stole from him, and now he wanted to return the money without the victim knowledge. Amar le, he said to that lender, Ki yazif ploni pshitei minach, when Mr. So-and-so borrow money from you, avlale becheshbon. So you include it in the calculation. So you can do it by incorporating, restoring the lender's money in order to spare any embarrassment, any shame. So it is a famous story about the great Rav Yisrael Salanter, one of the luminary rabbis when it's come to Shitat HaMusar, the Shita that they use in Lithuania. So once, in the earliest days in Yerushalayim, he was in a big levaya, the big funeral of a very wealthy individual, that the very end of his life, he turned to be one of the poorest people in the city. He was so poor, that fellow, that even the shroud, the tachrichim, was bought from the Chevra Kadisha, from the community. So the Rabbi Israel commented, and he said, now we know for sure that the shroud, the one that we wrap the deceased, it's really his. Why? Because the reality is you have sometimes wealthy people that all the money you see, it's not really their money. All kind of form of not their money. Okay. And there's a way to puff up, the way to use credit card, the ways to use banking money, lending institutions. I know a fellow in New York that showed me a lot of building, a lot of things. And he showed me that he came and he asked for Gemarrah in my previous congregation, New Jersey. And he showed me that all of his buildings, he overowed, because they allow him second mortgage and refinance and all kind of things in all of his companies, that he really pressed from fund because he squeezed the credit line and credit card in such a way for all his companies that he really, until he sells something and he makes things happen, at this period of time, it's all banking money.
At that point, if he's upside down, he sells, he still owes more than he...
Yeah, it happens too. Yeah. People don't understand, by the way. We talk a lot real estate, but you should know, real estate can be the same high profit, also a losing proposition as well. It's like any other businesses. Amar Rav Kahana, Havaya tivna b'shilhei pirkei derav, ושמעית דקאמר קרי קרי, ולא ידע דמה כאמר. I heard him speak, and he used the word gaward, and I didn't know what he meant by that. Gourd. Yeah. So it's in Hebrew we call it dlat, is a large...
It's like a squash kind of.
Squash, right?
Not an edible.
But I think it's different.
It's not edible. Usually gourds are non-edible.
Non-edible.
Yeah,
but the one...
Like squashes.
The one they sell it in the fresh field and Whole Foods, the huge one.
Decoration. They sell them for decoration.
It looks like a pumpkin, right?
Yeah, it looks like a pumpkin or a squash. You know, it's different shapes and sizes, but they're generally not very good to eat.
Mm-hmm. So what is that? The oranges. I saw you, Gilbert, the other day having that. What is that? That's different,
that's
right?
That's like butternut squash.
Butternut.
So but they're related. But squashes are good to eat, and gourds are not good to eat. That's basically the
Thank you.
Yeah.
Batar dekam Rav. So when Rav stood up from his drasha, Amar lehu, I said to my disciples, my karei karei. What do I mean by saying gourds? The kamar Rav, amrelei hacheka amar Rav, hayman de yahiv zuzei legina'a akarei. So if someone gives the money to a gardener to purchase gourds from him, because he raised those gourds, וכאזלי 10 קרי בני זרתה, so the market price, there is a certain market price for that. So they were going for the price of 10 gourds for the length of a span, the distance between the thumb and the little finger. So it's go for a dinar. ואמר ליהיבנה לך בני גר מידה, איתינו שרי לתניהו אסור. So the gardener said to the buyer, if you pay me the money now, I'll give you a gourd, a cubit in length, and later point in time, it's a different story. So he said, if it's the gourds of this large kind are in the possession of the seller, that's what we discussed yesterday, the yesh lo concept, this type of sale is permitted. If they are not in his possession, asur, it's prohibited. Because if he gives him large gourds at a later day for the price of small gourds, so it's a rebate. So that's called mischar behamtanat ma'ot. That's prohibited, that you're waiting. Rashi and Ritva explains that basically it's allowed when yesh lo. But the Ritva said that that the whole deal is you basically buying now in a certain price because of the circumstance, but basically it's the difference makes the interest. So the Gemara said, what?
The seller who's promising gourds that are of a certain length that aren't already there. In a way, he doesn't have Yirat Shamayim because he thinks he has control over it, whereas Hashem at any point could say, "Stop growing." So
the Gemara, beautiful. So the Gemara said, Pshita. You understand that they increase in and of themselves. Shapir damei, so it's allowed. Kamash melan, so come to teach us, it also classified as interest. So Rabbi Kiva Iger, you see it, others, based on that, ask a question as we presented at the introduction for buying a Sefer Torah. Because when you're dealing with the scribe and you're buying really cheap, there is a well-known Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer have a svara. When you have a ribit, matai shayach ribit, when you have the law of interest, you have that when you have a mechir kavua, you have a fixed market price. When it's come to a scribe, so first time, the Ibn Ezra said it's varied. It's different ktav, it's different quality, it's all kind of different rules. I can speak about my nephews. One sister have a son that he's a scribe, but he's a scribe like, can you bring me a sample over there? You see the Sidurim over there? Yes. This is, I just come to me. This guy is my nephew. The way he writes here, his Sifrei Torah is one of the most expensive Sifrei Torah in Israel. Okay? His name is Avrom Zilberstein. What? But his writing, he usually writes Arizal because he's a Chassid. But his writing is like the exception. He has painting capability that I have other nephews. The Sefer Torah that we bought the other Sefer Torah for the shul. So it's good, but it's total different price. It's sometimes double price. It's total different quality. The quality of writings, the quality of the space of the letters, the patience, sometimes the pressure the prescribe is to write. It's a lot of details, and it's varied. So therefore, the Avnei Nezer said that maybe it's not ribit. Only if it's a shar kavua, if it's a fixed market price, you can argue over interest. But this is what in the book called Shevet Hakati, he said, if a person, for example, bought a tefillin, and the merchant have a tefillin from one scribe, but he can give him a tefillin that it's kind of better scribe, in a sense, more Yerei Shamayim, or better writing, etc. Is that considering ona'ah or not when a person is not even aware of all of that? So it's if you give a better quality, the question is that considering a ribit or not? So it's a lot of discussion, as we said. But keman, ki haitana de tanya. Here we bring a braita in a concept of yeshlo. Haholech lachalov et izav, veligzoz et rechelav, velirdot et kavarto. One who went to milk his goats, or shear his sheep, or extract the honey from his hives. So all these examples, it's example of yeshlo. ומצאו חברו ואמר לו, מה שעיזי חולבות מכרו לך. So the fellow said to him, whatever my milk, my goat produce, it's sold to you. And the same the others. מה שרחלי גוזזות מכרו לך, מה שקברתי רודה מכרו לך. So this is called דבר שלא בא לעולם, because it's not yet here. So the question is there, it's considering יש לו or not. The Meiri said, when שלא חזרו בהם, they don't change their mind, the question is if it's ריבית or not. אבל אמר לו, מה שעיזה יכול לבוד כך וכך מכרו לך, מה שרחלי גוזות כך וכך מכרו לך, מה שקברתי רוזדה כך וכך מכרו לך. So that's basically שכר הקדמת מעותיו. Basically he gets the money in advance, that's a ריבית אסור. So it's only if he always can make money, תמיד מרוויח, then you can enter that domain. But that's called agar natar, because he basically give him cheap because he pay him in advance. So they said, we go back to the goals, ואף על גב דממילא קרב, as David said, even though these produce increase the value in and of themselves, כיוון דלתנהו בהיא שעתה, since they are not existent at the time of the sale, asur, is forbidden.
What about building a house for someone?
It's a question. You see, those questions very common in Israel. Some rabbis argue that the Heter Iska is not always applicable, because it depends. Many times you have different builders, different situations, different reputations, different agreements. So many people lost their pens with these, you know, that you're buying papers and the property is really not sold, belongs to all kind of Arabs.
I mean, isn't it it's a problem if they ask for money in advance if it's not built yet, right?
Number one.
So
it's other problems as well.
Well, right. I mean,
that basically the builder needs you money
to build.
Sometimes to build, sometimes to even buy the property.
Right.
Sometimes the builder is in the early stage of negotiation of a property, and sometimes it turned that it wasn't sell.
Right.
So, and some builder unfortunately run away with the money or try to convince you to go other projects. But meanwhile they're using your money for down payment, for all kind of other business deals. It's not as simple as you think. But anyway, Ika de Amra Marava Keivan Demimei Lakaravu Shapir Damei. He said, since the sold item grow by themselves, it is forbidden, as it does not constitute interest. So Habina Leitim, it's the author, it's also the Gidulei Truma. He has a long response in that regard. He said, you have a hard time to understand this vara of the Ika de Amrei, because he said, what's the issue? You sell hefema and he doesn't have the din ribit. V'atanya, kach v'kach asur, since such an amount is forbidden. So he said, hatam lav minei karavu deshakle lehai ve'ata acharine beduchtei. Hacha minei karavu. So because in the gourd they are larger, then the smaller, that's the way they grow. The chishakle lehai lo ate acharine beduchtei. So when they remove the gourds from the ground, no other will replace it. So what you see here, if he sells him gourds now, so all the additional growth belongs to the buyer, because the gourds are in a possession from the moment of acquisition. So the Chavat Da'at said that all the discussion here, it's Hilchot Ribit, the interest, and not Kinyanim, not the law of transactions, because Ein Adam Makne, a person not make an act of inquisition, davar shelo ba la'olam, something that is not here. So therefore, it's all ribit. If you remember, we talked several times the writing of the great Rav Stetner. The Rav Stetner and others say that a person can purchase, for example, a lot of, we are now in the Black Friday era, right? Right after Thanksgiving. So you have people who get all kind of deals. So one of the things that those retails and electrics company does, they give you 30 days guarantee, right? 30 days guarantee. You don't like it, you can bring it back. So the question is, do you have here an interest or you don't have an interest? Because both parties have issues. You have an issue because you get something and you use it and you're unhappy in the day of 28 or 29, you can return it. And the other company, they basically take your money and they use it meanwhile. So the company, in a way, Rav Stetner argues, they don't need your money in a sense, because they are selling product, especially in the internet, but also other ways, without the customer physically touch it or see it. But the whole concept of 30 days guarantee, it's worth it for those companies to take the risks. But you should remember, my dear friends, that always in these type of cases, a person should have she'elat chacham, should ask a prominent posek, is that okay or not by halacha? So here is Abaye's statement when it's come to a produce, and he said, Amar Abaye sharei le'inish lemeimar lechavrei. A person can say to his fellow, Heilach arba'a zuzei achavita dechamra. Here you have these 4 dinars for the future delivery of a barrel of wine. And here is the deal. Itakfa birshutach. Iyakra izila birshuti. If it sours, it's in your possession and you are the responsible. But if it go higher and appreciates, so therefore, or the opposite, depreciates in value, it is my possession, and I accept any loss, the result from change the price. So the Yoredea in 175 said that it is permitted for one to give money. Remember we talk about the gardener, for small gourds that he will receive when they grow larger, even if the gardener lowers the price, as the gourds are already in existence. It is permitted to pay in advance for a particular barrel of wine, while stipulating with the seller that if the price changes, the buyer will bear responsibility himself. But if it turns sour, the seller must pay for the barrel. If the buyer does not accept responsibility for a potential reduction in price, the practice is forbidden. Amar le Rav Shravya le Abaye, page 64, Hai karov lesachar v'rachok le'efsed. We don't have time, but Tosfot have 2 avenues here. Hai karov lesachar, so this transaction is close to a gain and far from a loss for the seller, because he thinks that it may be a risk, but it's far away risk to turn to be a sour. So the Rosh said that that's basically part of the concept of rebit. Amar lei, Abaye respond to him, Kivan de mekabel alei zola, since the buyer accepts upon himself the potential loss if the price depreciates. So the Pnei Yoshua said it's not karov lesachar v'rachok le'efsed. It's not really correct to say that the chances to gain and not to lose is higher. Karov lazeh ve'lazeu. The same way, it's like you're taking a risk. It's a transaction that it's close to both, to lose or to gain, to appreciate or depreciate. As there is a possibility of both gain and loss, so therefore we permit it. So the whole idea, Rabbi Yonatan Milunil in the Ramban explains that since it's in a balance of gain or lose, appreciate or depreciate is equal, that's the reason we allow it. So the poskim have a discussion. If you're buying, for example, a flight ticket in advance, in a very cheap price. So if it was in a season, it cost you 2,000. Now it cost you 800, right? So they said, is that rebate? Is that an interest or not? Why? The rabbis argued and said that's the risk that the person takes because the company can get bankruptcy. And we all know that big airlines buying the small airlines and some of the airlines get bankruptcy. It's like, it happens like the story we learn about the honey. So that's, most of the poskim hold that that's considering a buying and selling, mekach umimkar, and not rebate. Furthermore, now we're going to the Mishnah Kedusha in regards to not only its money, but can be shve kesef, can be something that has a value, a monetary value. Hamalve et chavero, if Reuven lends another money to Shimon, lo yadu b'chatzero chinam. So may not live in the borrower's estate, can be a courtyard, can be his estate, free of charge. Velo yiskor mimenu bepachot, and he should not rent any space from him less than the normal currency, normal going rate, mipnei shehu ribit, because it's considering as a interest. And it's a disputation among the Rishonim if this is the Oraita or the Rabbanan. So there's a discussion among the poskim. I wish to have more time about Gmach Chatanim. As you know, we are in a generation. You go to New York, you go to Florida, and Eretz Israel as well. You have those Gmachs, Hebrew free loan, that help Chatanim, you know, people who wants to get married and needs money. So they make it like a little club membership. They ask every person to give a monthly dues, whatever it is, for example, $18, $100, whatever it is. And everyone is kind of partner, and therefore they do a chesed. So then they come the time that you need to get married, so they give you a loan of 10K. So the question is, it's not the issue of rebate. The idea is that each chatan, for example, give $500 to the organization, to the Gemach, and then he received 10K. So Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Zecher Tzadik Levarcha, said, it's not really a borrower, it's really a partner. But as you know, we said it many times, when it's come to this type of question, one should ask a prominent posek, שאלת חכם. אמר רב יוסף בר מניומי, אמר רב נחמן, אף על פי שאמרו, even we said, in the Amoraim said, in Tractate Bava Kamma, page 21, הדר בחצר חברו שלו מדעתו, if one resides in another courtyard without his knowledge, אינו צריך לעלות לו שכר, does not have to pay him rent, if the owner of the courtyard does not suffer any loss from the arrangement. That's what we learn. זה נהנה, וזה לא חסר. It was a question that presented once with one of the poskim. As you know, around the Rashbi in Meiron, in North Israel, there is a yishuv that my uncle, Rav Mordechai Schenberger, is the Rav there. So in that yishuv, in that settlement, this is close to the Rashbi, the way that Reb Shimon ben Yochai buried. So it's vacancies during the year, many of those. So as a guy came in, and he lived there for some period of time, and the owner just by coincidence passed by, and he noticed that someone's living there. The question is, can he charge him for the previous? Now he can evicted him, no problem, right? But can he charge him for using that place for a certain amount of time, based on our sugya? Because you can argue that argument. But anyway, הלווה ודר בחצרו, צריך לעלות לו שכר. So the Ramban and Rashba and Ritva, they all say that if he give him a loan and in exchange he live in his courtyard, so the lender needs to increase. Only now, b'diavad, after the fact, you not collected. But lechatchila, so the Rishonim said, if it already leaves there, you don't need to pay. Because it's Rabbi de Rabbanan, and as we said many times, when it's come to Rabbi de Rabbanan, you don't ask for a person to pay, but if he goes to live there, then in the future, then he needs to pay. Maika mashmalan. So what exactly we derive from that? Tanina המלווה את חברו לא ידור בחצרו חינם ולא יזכור ממנו בפחות מפני שהוא ריבית. So he said that one who lend money to another, so he not reside in the borrower's courtyard free of charge, and he rent living quarters from him at less than the going rate. Why? Because we said it's interest. So they said, so he said the courtyard that stands for rent out. וגברא דאביד למיגר. אבל חצר דלא קיימא לאגרא, ועבד דלא אביד למיגר, עלה כמשמלן. So that's the whole idea of מחזי כריבית. איכא דאמרי אמר רב יוסף בר יומי אמר רב נחמן, אף על פי שאמרו הדר בחצר חברו שלא מידתו אינו צריך לעלות לו שכר, הלוויני ודור בחצרי צריך לעלות לו שכר. So the Maharsham, just give you the vignette, the well-known Maharsham said, if Reuven borrowed 100K, and the lender said to him, look, I'm giving you 100K, and I am a professional, let's say, electrician or plumber. So if you need my service, right, you take me, and I promise you I'll also give you a very cheap price. I beat everybody else. It's a problem, because that's ribit ktsutza based on that. It's form of interest. מאן דאמר הלווהו כל שכן הלווני, ומאן דאמר הלווני, אבל הלווהו לא. מה איתמה כיוון דמעיקר על עבודת דאחרוס ולת בה. Because in addition, in the original mindset, he said since initially he did not lend him the money with the intention, he doesn't have that intention, we have no problem with it, because it's possible that there is no connection between the loan and he residing in the courtyard. So Rashi explains that that's the concept of ze ne'eneh v'ze lo chaser. Rav Moshe Feinstein, zecher tzadik libracha, asked a question several times. People wants to publish books. So what do you do with the books? You take a loan, sometimes if you cannot afford it, right? Take a loan, for example, of 20K, and later you return it. But there are many authors that put a special beautiful page at the beginning. This book makes possible to publish by Mr. and Mrs. so-and-so that lend the money, and it's in memory of so-and-so, or we thank so much because of them we are able to publish this project, this book, etc. So he was asked, is that rebit or not? He said, how about if you said that God bless him, not you? So the Brit Yehuda said, you can say tizkule mitzvot for a loan, but the problem is when you said in the book atodah v'abracha, thank you very much, so you bring a source that in the Sfarim Kadmonim, in the early books, it was great rabbis that thank the lender and put a special page. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal said that it's all in a definition. If I put it as a hakarat tov, as appreciation of good is one thing, but if it's a chashash ribit, a person should always a prominent posek before putting such a statement in a book, because again, we enter today to this subject of mechzei keribit, appear as act of interest.